I'm in the fast lane when the light turns green, and I built tough, I ain't nothing but grit, cause I made rugged blood, sweat, and spit. Yeah, like a horse I fly, better push yourself in for a bumpy ride. I like to play hard, but I work harder, and I weather the storm cause I'm built stronger.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Morning Show, the top morning show in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines and to provide some actual insight into what a lot of this information means. As you guys can see, I'm not in the studio today. I am on site in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., at the NMFTA Cybersecurity Conference. We got a couple of guests today and tomorrow, and we're going to be talking about a lot of what we're doing here and accomplishing here for this industry. As always, you guys, we got a lot to talk about throughout this week. It's like the Freight Coach Roadshow this week, because I'm in Washington, D.C. today. Tomorrow, I'm in Dallas, Texas, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We're doing some more of our live shows out there. And then from there, you guys will be back out to the desert in Phoenix. And as you can see, we're in kind of the middle of things, as I like to run this stuff. You guys, most importantly, we're out here to provide insight, like I said, into what you can do to apply and utilize and see a meaningful difference in your business and life with this. Normally in my studio, you guys can see I proudly fly the American flag behind me because I'm living my American dream. I want to help each and every one of you guys live yours as well. But before I bring my guest on, my first guest of two on today, I got to give a shout out to my friends over at VHub, you guys, vhubapp.com. Whether you're a broker, carrier, or shipper alike, we all need access to trailers at some point in time. And the best part about it right now, especially with costs rising and everything out there, you get paid to do this. So if you're a small fleet, you should never have to shut your business down because you have a trailer in the shop. So what they're working on right now, you guys, is they have Paragould, Arkansas going to Delta, British Columbia, and you get paid $18.50 to do that, you guys. That's on top of the revenue that you can get by loading out that trailer. They also have San Diego, California to Millbury, Ohio. You get $600 to do that. And then they also have San Diego, California to Irving, Texas, and you get paid $650 to do that, you guys. So as always, hit them up, vhubapp.com. My friends Stacy Steen and Xavier Campos, they will be in the audience, you guys. Just do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. And all right, we already got some people blowing up the comments here. Sean, what's up? Good morning. Let's fucking go, baby. Drew Driscoll, another Monday show, another Vols win. There we go. I'm wearing that Tennessee orange right now. Sonny Sharma, what's up, my man? Good morning. Cody Miller, good morning. Whitney Young, good morning. New week, clean slate. Let's go. Bob Hasrati, what's up, man? Good morning. That's right. It's the road show this week. We're going to have a great week, and we're going to be doing a lot of big things. And hey, you guys, I got everything set up, but if you guys have, if the volume's coming through good on the mics, if you guys could just let me know on that, or if you need me to turn the volume up, let me know, because I don't have my headset on. I don't have the microphones in my studio, so it's always tough to tell, but I got it set up with that out there. With that being said, Stace, what's up? Good morning. Happy Monday. Steve Peterson, good morning. All right, I'm going to bring my guests on, you guys. We're going to talk about the EBOL, the electronic BOL, and it's coming in here through the LTL segment of the market. And we're going to, break it down on why it's extremely important with like the evolution of all of these things. So I got my friend Paul here. He's going to be joining me. He's with the NMFTA. He's the man, the myth, the legend behind all of this stuff. So he's going to come sit down. All right, Paul. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining me here today. I just want to hold on to that and just kind of put it right there. So how did you, I always start off every interview like this. How did you get your start in freight? What's your background in the industry?
Well, I started in 72 with the railroad.
Okay.
And went from there into LTL probably around 1982.
Okay.
And moved back into shipper's agent. But in 1990, I ended up with Estes Express Lines. At that time, they were a small regional carrier. They did about $100 million a year. I spent 27 years with Estes. And by the time I left, they were doing 2.4 billion, and they were a nationwide carrier.
So coming in and just seeing the evolution, have you seen throughout your career, was it LTL heavy back when you got in and then it kind of truckload took off, or has it always been kind of that balancing act where there's always been such a distinct difference between an LTL market and a full truckload market?
Well, the truckload is a much bigger market than LTL.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and LTL is very concentrated amongst about 10 major carriers.
Okay, so do you think, so here's where my brain always goes with this. So with you're saying that, do you think that is better for competition to have the 10 major players and then some sub-regional ones? Or because in the full truckload world, I mean, obviously 97% of the market is 20 truck or less operations. And it's tough for any one provider to be like, hey, I have a stronghold on anything outside of a couple of like core lanes or maybe a region, you could say.
Well, there is a lot of competition in the LTL market. A lot of freight actually moves in regional markets. So you've got long haul carriers, got interregional carriers and regional carriers, and they all provide a valuable service in the industry. There is not one market leader out there in the LTL industry.
Okay. Why is that though? Like, why hasn't one came up? Because like this is the question that I think about a lot, is as large as domestic transportation is here in the United States, there's not like, if you think about retailers, for example, you got your Walmarts and your Amazons and your Targets of the world and your Costcos of the world. Why haven't there been one or two providers who have taken a undeniable dominant stronghold on any segment of this market?
Because anytime somebody tries to do that, another carrier might take a different position and they could lose some of their business. The pricing environment is very, very difficult. I mean, carriers are given 90% discounts.
Yeah.
I mean, that's ludicrous, but no one carrier has been able to change the pricing system in the industry. Because nobody has that market dominance to do that.
So, because when we were talking last night, you were the bulk of your career, you were in charge of pricing.
Right.
So how do you, for anybody that's out there right now listening to this, what was your strategy when you were really building out for like an RFP? How are you guys attacking it? Was hey, we're going to go after the lanes that we know that we can service, or are we going we're going to go for a market share grab? Or was that market dependent? It was dependent upon where freight volumes were at, where fuel prices were at, and everything else.
We looked at an RFP. First of all, it's based on the quality of the information that they provide to you. The more we have to guess, the more we start backing up on the aggressiveness of our pricing. But we go in and we go in looking at how much of this freight do we want and can we service? And that's how we price that business, knowing that we're not going to get all of it. We price as much as we think that we can handle, and we price depending upon the aggressiveness, is depending upon the quality of the information that the customer gives us.
So how do you, when you're talking about quality of information, I'm right there with you, because I think like as sales reps at times, we need to push for more information. We can't take surface level stuff. And like, I've never worked on the asset side or the LTL side. I've been on brokerage the entirety of my career. But for me, it's like, you need to have these conversations on the front end, because like, as we were talking last night, sales is easy. The real work always starts when execution's about, and like, and especially with you guys from an asset perspective, you guys can't send trucks in and out of facilities and not know loading times. Is it an appointment? Is it first come, first serve? Like the operational side of things. And I think as a sales rep at times, we get told yes. And like all of a sudden we want to be like, all right, whatever you need, whenever you need. And there's a big difference between you need to add value, not only to your customer, but also your internal organization. Like those are trucks that you guys can't have extended downtime because we didn't ask a question on the front end.
Right.
Because that's got to affect pricing as a whole,
It does. So what a carrier does, carrier can measure that freight. He measures the amount of time he's there. He measures the density of that freight. And he looks at the origin destination pairs. After a carrier has won an award, within a month, he knows more about that freight than the shipper does. And hopefully he hasn't made a mistake by that time, so that he has to renegotiate the deal. So that's why up front, it's very important to get as much information as you can, so that when you make that award, you don't have to go back and renegotiate the deal, because that upsets the carrier and it upsets the shipper, who now has his budget based on that award. So it goes back to the quality of the information that the carrier needs in order to give a good, accurate bid.
So quality of information, I think this is a perfect segue into what you are leading an initiative right now on,
Right.
which is the electronic bill of lading inside of LTL to start. And you've got buy-in from eight of the 10, or, you
We
got,
have 8 of the 10 largest LTL carriers in the nation have signed a pledge.
yep. So with that pledge though, like what has been the, because again, transportation as a whole can be old school at times. There's a lot of like emerging technologies and everything. It's always the show me first and then I'll decide if I want it. What has been the initial pushback from that? Because like I see it when people put posts out there all the time, like, oh, this is never going to work. What if it's hazmat? What if it's this? What if it's that? Well, what if it does work though? Like, what if it improves the way that operations is ran inside of transportation? What were some of the key identifiers in your career, Paul, that you were like, we need to do this? The accuracy of the bill of lading needs to improve beyond a shadow of a doubt. And like, what areas are out there that this initiative is set to kind of overcome?
Well, the biggest problem with a bill of lading is the customer is going to give you that paper bill of lading. And you don't really know that anything about that shipment until that paper arrives back at the terminal and it gets keyed in. And historically, in the LTL environment, that gets manually keyed in to a system. So now you have manual intervention and people are prone to make errors. That error is going to be replicated throughout the system. You could have a misload. You can have a lot of different problems with poor keying in of that data. So with an electronic bill of lading, you eliminate the human intervention of getting that information accurately posted in your system. And so there are a huge amount of benefits for the carrier. SMC3 did a study, and they felt that there was probably about $1.2 billion in advantage to the carrier industry by having an electronic bill of lading. But even for the shippers, there's probably 2 to 4% of an advantage to them if they would submit electronic bill of ladings.
And I'm almost thinking of it like this, like electronic BOL, because like what you're saying before, you had to wait until the piece of paper arrived before you guys could plan. Because we were talking about LTL transportation last night and how moving freight from Philadelphia down to Charlotte, for example, and how it goes to, say, a terminal in Richmond, and then it's paired up with other freight going to Charlotte, and then it'll go down from there. I think like this can help expedite the process, because now you guys will know ahead of time before the pallet actually arrives in your terminal, this is the dimensions, this is where it's going to be, this is what freight we can pair it up with. I think if anything, it's going to improve the efficiency of the LTL sector, which will eventually evolve into improving the full truckload side of things, because from a load planning perspective, and like, I don't know, I see too much of a benefit of this from a technology standpoint, because then there's also the human error of what if the driver loses the BOL, then the shipper's closed for the day by the time he gets to the terminal, and then that pallet has to sit an additional day because we couldn't get the piece of paper back from it.
Yeah, with the electronic bill of lading, the carrier is going to have that information much sooner than he would if he had to wait for the driver to get back to the terminal. So they can start their planning, their line haul planning, much earlier in the process. And again, by eliminating the possibly key punch errors, you eliminate misroutes, which are extremely expensive.
So with that being said, how does this save money for the shippers? Because if I'm a CPG company right now, I'm looking at this of, I want to do it, but like, where's the benefit to me?
Well, and he gets better on-time service. His safety stocks can be lower. Much better network planning and network efficiency. So there's a lot of benefits to the shipper. Some carriers, a few of them, are actually offering a little better price if you submit a electronic bill of lading.
Okay. I mean, you got to think even from like, because again, this is my head just instantly goes back to the billing errors that would come across from a BOL that comes, like there's a mismatched PO number, there's a one digit that's off, and how that delays payment. And I'm just trying to think of like the correlation to the truckload world. Like I think this is going to help expedite payments. This is going to help expedite the overall efficiency of the freight movement that's out there. This is going to help you identify those key errors and stuff. Where do you see, like, once this gets implemented, once this gets mainstream adoption, where does it evolve from there?
Okay, so we're starting with adoption of the electronic bill of lading, but we actually want to standardize and digitize the entire data stream from the pickup all the way through to the delivery.
Mm-hmm.
So the next workshop we're going to be creating is on pickup visibility.
Okay.
Again, and historically, it's been very difficult for an LTL carrier to know his on-time pickup information because he didn't have that. He didn't know he had that shipment until he gets back to the terminal.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if he gets that information a whole lot earlier, he knows his on-time performance on pickup. He starts to plan a whole lot earlier. So that's the next workshop we're looking at is pickup visibility.
I like that. So what do you think is, from your perspective right now, with the market changing and everything else? I mean, how many market shifts have you seen in your career?
Market shifts
Or anything, like all the economic uncertainty that's out there in the world right now.
Yeah. And every time there's a market shift or an uncertainty, that pendulum goes back and forth between the shipper and the carrier, who has the advantage in terms of pricing and volume. And it goes back and forth. In the past couple of years, during the pandemic, there was more freight than the carriers could handle.
Yeah.
And pricing went very high. Some carriers had to embargo locations because they just couldn't handle it all.
Yeah.
Now things are starting to slow down. So now that pendulum will start shifting back towards the shipper.
So how do you, from your perspective, what's one piece of advice you would give out there to the market as a whole right now, the people who are operating in this, on how to navigate through this? Because you've seen this multiple times. I've seen this, but there's a lot of people who are coming up on, this is their first slowdown, contraction, whatever you want to throw at it. This is their first time. What did you rest on during those times in your career?
The best thing to do is, I've always said, people have asked me, how do you define your best customer? And I've always said, the one who pays you.
So true.
So it is important to make sure that you pay your carriers, and make sure that you're efficient when the carrier arrives. Get him in and out of there as quickly as possible, because he's measuring that time and that he's spending at your location. And that's extremely important. Pickup and delivery costs for a short haul carrier is as much as the line haul.
So I was gonna say, so did that affect your pricing strategy then, when you were like, hey, this facility historically it's kind of a crapshoot on if we're going to get in there in an hour or we're going to be there for 3 hours? Mm-hmm. How much does that go into pricing for you?
Well, it does go into the pricing, because we're going to know that historically within a month. And that means that if we can't get in and out of there in a reasonable period of time, then there's probably going to be a price adjustment.
That's good to know. Well, Paul, I appreciate you joining me. This was a quick little time, and I'm really looking forward to learning more about everything that we're going to be talking about here at this conference, because something for me, the EBOL, I'm very excited for this, because I'm all about efficiencies, and I know that will lead to greater efficiencies overall. And then if you're thinking like down the stream, that's going to, if it helps pricing remain more consistent, that helps the end user, the consumers, the us when we go to the store. That's only going to help manage those costs overall. And then furthermore, within the cybersecurity and everything else, I'm really looking forward to just sitting here and observing for these next couple of days.
We've got 70 entities, carriers, 3PLs, and technology providers who have signed the pledge to initiate the electronic bill of lading with at least one business partner between now and July. So it's been a wonderful acceptance by the industry, and hopefully we can continue with that.
I love it. Well, hey, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
And we're gonna roll on, and let's see here. April, good morning. Sorry guys, when I got in-person interviews, it's tough to keep up on the comments here. John, what's up, man? I appreciate it. Cassandra Gaines, what's going on? Thanks for joining here. Erica Hamilton, thank you for joining. LaTroy Wilson, thank you so much for some of the carries on site and power service planning. He nailed it. Yeah, absolutely, LaTroy. I mean, that's the thing is like, it's not every day you get somebody who's got 20, 30 plus years of experience who's just going to come and share their insight with us on this show. So I always love it when people can come on, and now I'm going to bring on my next guest here. You're joining, right? Yeah, come on in, man. Go sit down. All right. I'm doing well. Here, if you would just want to, look at that, you guys. This is the reality of, we learn on this show. We'll adapt and we'll go from there.
That works. Okay. Thank you.
So why don't you, for everybody out there who's listening, let me see here. Kyle Provost, what's up, my man? I appreciate that. Michelle LeBlanc, it's great. It is a very interesting event so far. All right. So if you want to put the mic up closer to your face, there we go. We'll go with that. Introduce yourself to the Freight Coach Nation.
Oh, great. John Solari, with the CTO of NMFTA, a relatively new hire, and have been in the technology space for more than 30 years now.
So let's talk about cybersecurity, because this is like, we went for a while last night with everything. What is the main objective of this conference today? Because I learned for the first time, admittedly, that braking systems on a truck can get hacked. I had no idea that was even at that exposure level. So like, what's the main objective between all the attendees and everybody out here about the information to get out?
I mean, collaboration with each other, learning from each other is really powerful. As much as the sessions you're going to learn from, it's equally important to make those contacts. People are experiencing the same things or have the same knowledge gaps, and you're sort of having then people that you can collaborate with across the industry.
Yeah. So like that, I mean, because I'm thinking, obviously we were just talking about the EBOL. What information do you think needs to come out there? Do we reverse engineer these things? We're like, all right, we're going to implement this, but let's set up cybersecurity walls. What is one thing that you would like to see people do like today, where it's not as challenging as they would think to protect their organizations?
I think there's a lot of education that needs to happen out there, really. As I met with a lot of the companies, I realized that the IT folks focused on their back office and their enterprise. Other folks focused on the truck security. There wasn't a lot of cross communication and understanding that, say, we have a lot of good technologists here today, but they weren't familiar with what to do. And that, just like you had the experience, you could hack here or make, break in here. So if we can start educating folks and they get more familiar, then I think they're going to be able to dive in and help us better protect the whole entire infrastructure in the end. Yeah,
because I mean, you think about it, like you hear about it all the time. Like I was talking to a gentleman last night where he was like, his organization can see as much as 10,000 potential attempts a day. And yeah, like they're a big organization for the industry, but like overall, and then because I was thinking, I'm like, so everybody would attack like the larger players. And he was like, from his perspective, he's like, no, it's the smaller companies that they're going to go after first, because it's like they want that quick fix, because they know that some of those companies, it's like the most vulnerable. I think he used the gazelle and the planes. Who do they go after first? They go after the slowest gazelle. They don't go after the fastest, the most efficient one. So that's like, for me, everybody who's out there listening to this right now, the size of your organization is irrelevant. They're looking for anything and everything to get in and then hold you hostage, essentially, because that's what it is. It's ransom at that point. You're going to pay us X amount of money, or we're going to just level your company.
But it's also an opportunity for them if they can hack into a smaller one that has less protection. They're learning, so they can apply what they learn to larger organizations. And what we may not find out is somebody may not share with us that they were hacked, but it's important somehow to get that information back so we can better protect the industry. So there's got to be some methodology of having those communications, not being embarrassed by it, get help, and help us help each other get through and protect ourselves.
Well, that's the thing is, it's like, I mean, as technology evolves, all of this stuff, I mean, it's I always thought it was like a foreign influence that was coming at it. And he was actually breaking it down to me last night. He's like, actually, there's a lot inside of the United States who are doing that and trying to penetrate inside of organizations. Sure. And it's like, it's not always, Russia or Pakistan or whomever. It's sometimes it's domestic that's coming after us.
It's definitely across the board. And there's a lot of skill at all levels across all the different countries. So it doesn't have to be, and it could be for just revenge or who knows what the purpose. It doesn't have to be state actors.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm like thinking about that because like not only is because like, again, the amount of things inside of a truck that could potentially be taken on from a cyber attack. You know, you think reefer units on trailer. That's the first thing that comes to mind. I just learned about braking systems. Then you also have e-logs, everything else. It could just completely shut down your GPS as a whole and take over that. And then like, that's always my biggest things with like autonomous, you know, that's my biggest pushback with autonomous is, you know, as we were discussing last night, who's at fault in those instances? And I think like there's a lot of ground that needs to be made up from that effect. So it's like, that's where my brain instantly goes with a lot of these things. Like, yeah, emerging technologies is great, but what about the side effects? Like the non-shiny object of, hey, look at how great this is. Because there's always a reverse to that.
And there's always a bug, right?
Yeah.
And somebody can take advantage of it. So with the autonomous, you know, everybody's responsible. And I think we're a long way away from that, given that every piece of software we've seen always has some issue. And do you really want to put something out there on the road that could have a significant impact?
Yeah. No, not at all.
Right.
Like,
and not even hazmat, but just even an accident on a major highway and what you would do and the impact on people's lives. We're far away from that. And the reliability of the software is just not there yet.
so where do you think is like the biggest exposure piece from that right now? Like what would be, if I was like, because I'm thinking, you know, if I'm a hazmat company, for example, you know, how like what information are you guys building up and putting out there for the public? Because again, it's like we could talk about this, but where do people go? If I own a 100 truck fleet right now and I'm hearing this, which I know a lot of them out there who listen to my show are, where do we go to find this? How do we reach out to anybody who can help us if we're in that position where we don't have anything in place right now?
We're gradually going to build up our sharing, our educational resources. We don't have a lot out there. It's kind of scattered from what I've seen. So I think that a lot of us are going to have to pull together and make that easier to understand, easier to consume, and have mechanisms to go out and share the information. But I don't think it's in a place right now where it's easy to consume.
So Cybersecurity Council has to be formed.
Right.
We have to get that mainstream because again, I think like that is as everything becomes more and more electronic with everything in this industry, because there is still a large sector of the trucking industry as a whole, and that's LTL and full truckload and everything to me that is still non-electronic.
Right.
It will get to a point where it will all be electronic at some point in time, but it's like we got to think 5-10 steps ahead of when we get there. We need to have certain measures in place because
not only just for the truck, but for the back office as well. And if you're not already out of the paper world, there's so much security infrastructure you've got to put in place that they're probably not thinking of. And then depending on your size, if you're a small or a large, those investments matter. So maybe a smaller one needs to think about going all cloud where somebody's taking care of it for them because they don't have the expertise and never will have the expertise on hand. Right. And that's another problem. And if you don't make those investments, you're going to get attacked and you're going to go down and you're going to go out of business.
I think the biggest keyword you use right there is an investment. And that's what it is. It's an investment in protecting your organization as a whole, because, you know, they're not going after the one $50,000 payday. They're going after 10 $5,000 paydays or $50,000 paydays that would cripple organizations out there. And then it's going to be them going out of business. Like not taking these steps, I think is, again, I'm not trying to be an alarmist or anything like that, but these things are happening. And you got to look at it like this. Like my philosophy in business is I would rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. And especially from a cyber perspective right now is it's only a matter of time, I think, because people are going to get more and more advanced. And the more and more we share the information out there on if your organization was a victim of a cyber attack, and then what the people who are a hell of a lot smarter than me can do, and they can build all of that stuff out. Like my business partner, Kyle Provost, and Broker Carrier. Guy's a genius when it comes to technology. He actually worked for the NSA. He's done all of that stuff. Nice. So it's like building that up and sharing that information is only going to protect the organization, the industry as a whole.
But in some cases, I may hack into a business but I'm trying to work my way back to the software provider.
Yeah.
I'm only using them. I'm not going to take them down. I have long-term goals to basically impact many carriers who use that software for their business, right? So you've got to watch out for that piece as well. And those vendors that are providing software, service, and solutions, they have got to be locked down and make the similar investments because they need to protect themselves as much as us. And we saw that not so long ago with one of the software vendors that was pushing out code and software updates, took out dozens of companies because they all got bad code.
Yeah. And that was it was the gas in, was it the Carolinas, wasn't it?
There was another one that was doing network management software.
Yep.
And it impacted because it was using open source, and then it got hacked into and then got pushed out.
Yeah. Jesus. There's a lot. That's a lot there, but that we're up on time. I try and keep this 30 minutes because my audience, all of them are working professionals, and we're in and we're out. We hit them with information and we back out from there. How can you be, if I'm listening to this right now and I want to learn more, how do I reach out to you?
The website, nmfta.org website, and then I'm happy to chat with anyone.
Perfect. I appreciate it. Thank you
Thanks
so much. That's it for today, you guys. The Freight Coach Morning Show. We are the top morning show in transportation. We will be live again here tomorrow at the NMFTA conference. We're all about cybersecurity, EBOLs, everything. We'll be back tomorrow. As always, if you guys saw value in what we were talking about here today, you guys share the show, because that's how this is always going to continue to grow, you guys, is because if you guys see value in it, your network's going to see value in it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon. And now we're going to end the broadcast.